So 3rd down and 2. They can get the first down. The ball sits at the 7-yard line. 2:54 left to go. Opening quarter, still no score. And they'll hand this one off, and almost getting tripped up, and now does, is Chad Parton. And it'll be a 4th down.
For Saucon Valley, while the other guys will get credit for the tackle on that play, it was Aiden Renninger, number 5, from his outside linebacker spot, who was able to just pin that play, not allow him to get outside, turn it back inside, and allow everybody else to pursue and bring him down for a loss. This is a big 4th down early on in this game, about 2 minutes left in the quarter.
So 4th down and 3. Glad you could join us here on D11sports.com. Some technical difficulties, and looks like we are back on here. The ball sits at the 8-yard line, and the pass is thrown a little bit high towards Tim Buddha.
Looked like he had Buddha open there where he could have gotten the first down and kept the drive alive, but Stevens just puts it a little bit high, and that's something you expect to see a little bit out of the backup quarterback, not really able to get a lot of practice in, but he has to be able to complete those passes if Salisbury wants to win.
So Saucon Valley twice with the ball inside the 10-yard line. This time they'll start at the 8-yard line, Matt.
And Saucon Valley needs to do something to try offensively to flip this field position. They narrowly missed out on some opportunities last series where they had a nice hole to the outside, but Salisbury, as Coach Circo had mentioned earlier when we spoke with him, he has a lot of speed. He has a lot of talented players, a lot of experienced players. He has speed to close down even when they get through the line of scrimmage.
1:38 on the clock, opening quarter of football Thursday night. D11sports.com game of the week. Al DiCarlo, Matt Avancho with you from Saucon Valley, and obviously the ground attack when it comes to the Saucon Valley Panthers across the 20-yard line and still on his feet all the way across the 30, and a solid run, maybe the best run of the night for Damian Garcia. Garcia coming into the contest with 38 carries for 377 yards and 5 touchdowns. And for Saucon Valley, Matt, there it's they've been starting inside the 10, so this is the best field that they can play with here with 1:17 on the clock.
It is, and I think you're going to see Saucon Valley run the ball a lot tonight. They have a lot of youth, a lot of younger players. They're going to follow that big offensive line and just work behind them.
We talked to Brad Trembler, the head coach, first-year head coach, before the game, and he told us, obviously we like.
In the beginning of the game, when we talked to them with our student reporters about that size of the offensive line that Saucon Valley had, they needed to be able to move around and stay active so that they were able to find those spots to get in the holes to not allow these big gains.
Garcia doing a good job each and every time he carries the football. When you're going +3, +4, +7, you stay in the mix. So obviously that's a good thing.
We always talk about how starting off in a good first down play, getting to second and short, put your offense in a better position. You have a lot of room, a lot of things that you can do. The less you gain on that first down, the smaller your playbook gets.
2nd down and 5, the ball at the 42, likely the last play of the quarter, spinning through across the 40 and maybe down to about the 36-yard line. Again, that's 3 or 4 straight carries by the Saucon Valley running backs making their way through and getting the job done here.
And that time it was number 20, senior Braden Legardo, getting the carry up the middle following his lead block of fullback Chris Mann.
End of the first quarter. No score between Saucon Valley and Salisbury.
If you're Saucon Valley defensively, I think you have to be happy after their first quarter. Salisbury comes in, more experience, a lot of older senior players. They've been 3-4 year starters for Coach Circo. They got inside the 10, inside the 20 of Saucon Valley twice, Saucon Valley's defense was able to turn them away on downs both times. Saucon Valley, however, has to be happy with this drive, getting into their groove, which Coach Trembler talked about last week, how that Palmerton game was really the game they needed to turn around and get things going. He said 2 weeks ago against Penargil, didn't have that same kind of feel. Last week, they felt like they put together a complete game, and they want to ride that confidence throughout the rest of the season.
So 1 quarter in the books in your D11sports.com game of the week, presented by St. Luke's Sports Medicine. Both teams coming in at 2-1, and Saucon Valley still driving down the field and breaking through and all the way down to the 20-yard line. So aggressive, and again, when you have those players coming in and and you have 3-4 running backs that are going to push the ball forward, obviously that's the opportunity.
They're excited about what they have in the backfield and the depth that they have. Even though they're all very young, they all are very capable of being the lead role back for this team.
So underway here in quarter number 2. The ball at the 20, best drive of the game here for the Panthers. And never giving it up and going in from 20 yards for the touchdown.
This is a staple of the Saucon Valley offense where they're running a options to the quarterback. Fullback will come up. He'll fake to the fullback, have a lead block by the running back, and then the quarterback pulls it. If he reads it that he needs to pull, just goes around the edge, follows his lead blocker into the end zone for the touchdown.
So Quentin Stevens with the 20-yard touchdown run. First points of the game go to the Panthers. Extra point is up and good. And with 11:18 on the clock in the second quarter, it's Saucon Valley on the scoreboard. Dante Mahaffey, with the touchdown for Saucon Valley. Got a lot going on in here, and obviously mismatching my rosters. So 20 yards from Mahaffey and a 7-0 lead here for the Panthers.
Saucon Valley's kicker, number 8, Alex Magnata, is the one who's able to get the extra point through. He'll handle the kicking duties for Saucon Valley, both kickoffs, field goals, PATs, as well as punting.
So after a scoreless first quarter, we got our first points on the scoreboard between 2-1 Salisbury and 2-1 Saucon Valley. Andy Serko in his 8th year with a record of 24-51 came off a big win against Wilson, 27-24 in overtime. And Saucon Valley under head coach Brad Trembler, his first year, coming off a big win over Palmerton by a score of 35-14.
And it's kind of an odd situation where we have both teams coming in with big wins last week, as you stated. Salisbury and Coach Circle coming out with that overtime win against Wilson, 27-24, and then also Saucon Valley with the big win over Palmerton. Palmerton, one of the teams who was expected to do well in the league, and Saucon Valley went up there and just took care of their business and came out, as I said earlier, and played a complete game.
From the 29. On the ground. That's Tim Buda. You're just tuning in as we get you up to speed. Quentin Stevens is your quarterback as Trey Weber, still nursing that injury, has what do you call that around your left arm? Not a sling, but a
big club wrapped
up. A club,
up.
Yeah. So he's not going tonight.
Fortunate for him, not his throwing arm. So it'd be interesting to see how Salisbury and Coach Circle and his staff decide what they're going to do with him if the game's close late in the game. If they need him in there to make any kind of plays.
That ball goes straight to the ground, and luckily that one is right on top by Chad Parton, and they'll bring up a third down.
And unfortunately for Stevens, that's not a mistake he can make. It looked like he just took his eyes off the ball. It looked like he was ready to go before he had the ball in his hands.
So third down and 13. Stevens looking to throw, gets flushed out of the pocket. Now if the back foot throws in traffic, that one incomplete. Was looking downfield for Pingarelli. And then a flag comes in real late at the end of that play.
I think they're going to get Saucon Valley's number 11, Ty Census, with pass interference. It looked like he was right there as the ball was coming in. So unlike the NFL, that penalty will only be a 15-yard penalty from the previous line of scrimmage. However, Saucon Valley had them in third and long. They didn't want to give up that kind of situation where they could get the first down off of a penalty. They need to get their defense back in to just regroup and play how they have been.
Swarm of black jerseys come in. First guy in is Kyle Warnke. That's a big sack.
Warnke comes from his defensive tackle spot. It looked like there was just a miscommunication on the Salisbury offensive line. He came in unblocked, and Parton had nowhere to go.
Second down and 18. The ball sits at the 33. 9:16 on the clock in the opening half of football. 7-0 Saucon Valley. And Stevens moves out of the pocket and now is going to try to gain some extra yards, but not much there. As they'll bring up a third down and long situation.
It's third and long again, but one thing that Saucon Valley has to watch out for defensively is the fact that with Stevens back there, he's a little bit more of a scrambler than Weber is. And what they need to do is just make sure they keep their lanes and stay contained, keeping them contained on the inside. Those times he drops the ball, everybody wants to go and get the ball. They don't stay in their contained lanes and stay disciplined. They need to keep him in the pocket where they can swarm him in and just take him down.
This one in the middle part of the field, and the pass is complete into the hands of Tim Buda. That's your biggest play of the game if you're Salisbury. They had some good ones in the opening quarter, but you're talking about third down and long distance, and you make a play like that.
It is, and that's the one thing that Saucon Valley's defense is being hit on is that passing game. Salisbury is able to find time to get the ball out, and they're able to find open receivers.
So 1st and 10 from the 43. Wide open on the pass play, connecting to Weston Schaefer, and Schaefer gets tripped up inside the 10-yard line. They'll mark him at the 9. I think that was a concern of Brad Trembler coming into the contest, that the way they throw the football could be very dangerous.
It is, and what they had was they had the inside guy in the the receiving group out there run a bubble screen, and then they had Schaefer run a slant behind him, and then Stevens just waits for that receiver to clear the inside linebacker, and he finds him with a wide open middle of the field.
First and goal from the 9. Trying to roll out, and now looking to throw, and the pass is made for the touchdown, a 9-yard touchdown into the hands of Tim Buda. So Salisbury on the scoreboard.
And that time it looked like Stevens rolling out to the left, just like we saw in previous weeks where they have a backup quarterback. That could be a design run. That time he is able to find Buda running a quick out route, hits him on the goal line, and it looked like there might have been a little bit of a rub from the outside receiver running a slant, running interference, knocking off Chris Olam and not letting him get to his receiver.
8:05 on the scoreboard, 7-6 after the miss there and the block in favor of Saucon Valley. So an interesting one cooking up here in Saucon Valley.
Especially early on. I know it's early, but when you look at that mixed extra point, that blocked extra point could come back and play a toll in this game. When you think about how closely Salisbury's been in games all the season long, how important that 1 point may be.
So in quarter number 2, 7-6 your score. Patrick Foley has it on the tee. So a short one picked up, or will it be? Yes, it will, right around the 16-yard line. And cutting across on the angle and get driven down was Chris Orleman.
Real good coverage by the Salisbury kick team there. Coming down, staying in their lane, staying disciplined, not letting Orleman get to the outside on them.
So Dante Mahaffey scored from 20 yards out at the 11:18 mark of quarter number 2. At the 8:05 mark, it was a 9-yard touchdown by Quentin Stevens to Tim Buda to make it 7-6. And this one broken and making his way down the sidelines inside the 15-yard line. And they're going to mark him, I think, at the 1. So Garcia gets everything but that last yard, and they'll mark him down right at the 1-yard line.
And that's a tough one. The official was well behind the play, not able to be downfield to see if he was in or not before he stepped out of bounds. However, as you said, a big play for Saucon Valley, utilizing that running game in sophomore Damian Garcia.
So Damian Garcia goes plus 70 really on that run all the way down to the 1-yard line. And diving forward. And there's your touchdown by Mahaffey. So Mahaffey with 2 touchdowns so far tonight. And that one from 3 yards.
It was just nothing more than a quarterback sneak. You get the ball down there at the 1-yard line. You have an advantage on the offensive line with size and strength. So why not just have them step inside, give Dante Mahaffey a wall, let him follow behind them. That time he decides to take a couple steps, jump over the top, get the ball across the plane, get the touchdown. We mentioned before about how the missed extra or the blocked extra point by Salisbury, how that's going to come into play. This time Saucon Valley moves early, pushing Magnata in his try a little bit deeper, see if he can put this through and keep them ahead by 8.
Snap, the kick is up, and that one is through. And with 7:42 on the clock, it is now 14-6 in favor of the Panthers.
We had 3 quick defensive stands, stops. Salisbury held Saucon Valley's offense on the first drive. Then Saucon Valley's defense held Salisbury on 2 offensive drives. But since that, it's been nothing but scoring out. Both teams getting down the field with their offense. So it's going to come down to which defense can settle in and make more plays.
So 14-6 is your score. The ball, going back and forth as you mentioned. A touchdown twice by Mahaffey, one by Quentin Stevens to Tim Buda. And, when these two teams get together, I think the biggest concern when we talked to Coach Brad Trembler was been, he said they're dangerous. They're, when they throw the football, they're a dangerous kind of team. And, when you look at Salisbury and the job that Andy Serco did, has done so far, he's got as many wins this year so far as they had all of last year. So, again, you get that win, and I believe it was the first time ever at Salisbury home game that they went overtime in the history of the program. That sparks not only your team, that sparks, the fans and everybody else watching.
It does, and as we talked to Coach Tremblay, I kind of asked him, did you expect this kind of start that you've had? And he just said, we're focusing on 1 week at a time, nothing more than that. The kids have bought into that. They're actually looking more at it as 1 day at a time. They don't look any bit ahead. They just stay focused on what they're doing in the moment.
Well, Chad Parton came into the game with 15 receptions for 314 yards and 5 touchdowns. When you look at, Salisbury Falcons, those receivers that they have, Parton, Buda, and Pingarelli, along with Weston Schaefer, all have had catches so far in this game. So it shows that, they do move the football around.
They do, and they have to continue to do that to try to attack Saucon Valley's defense at different areas from different angles as well.
This one will be picked up at the 23-yard line by Tim Buda, and he's quickly rifled down, and we'll see the Salisbury offense come back on the field once again. Thursday Night Football, your D11sports.com game of the week, presented by St. Luke's Sports Medicine. Hope you're bearing with us here. We had some technical difficulties trying to get us back on. And with anything new, obviously there's issues here and there, and we appreciate those, tuning in, watching, and knowing that Matt's next thought is coming, so that's a good thing.
Hardly think people are sitting on the edge of their seat waiting for what I'm about to say.
From the 27 to start things off, and how about that? That was a rifle, right into the hands of Pingarelli. Pingarelli's been hot so far today.
He has, and I also talked to Coach Serco and asked him, with the youth of Saucon Valley, they have those young players playing, a lot of sophomores, some freshmen. Where were you going to attack them? Where were you going to go after them? And he said they really weren't going to try to attack anybody. They were just going to use their experience and just have it innately take care of it. But they are attacking that right side of the defense where they have 2 sophomores playing, and Anthony Orleman and Ty Census in the secondary. They seem to continue to go that way.
Looking to throw again. That one a tough throw. Looking at Pingarelli. Pingarelli had to go up and try to get that one. Could not.
As you're seeing this, you watch that the secondary on that side is actually giving Salisbury a lot of room to maneuver inside and up front. They're just not allowing them to get behind them, which is key for Saucon Valley. However, they can't let them continue to gain those long plays, the long yardage on first down, or gaining the first down as well.
Second down and 10, the ball at the 38-yard line. Stevens, quick toss to the far sideline. That one incomplete. Again, it was Pingarelli's target.
And it looked like there was a miscommunication because you had Parton as well within a 3-yard radius of Pingarelli. Pingarelli was running the out route. Parton was coming up the sideline. And it just looked like Pingarelli wasn't sure if he should go for the ball. And I know Coach Serco will tell him when he watches the film, if the ball is ever in your vicinity, you go after it. You don't think it's going to someone else. You just take it, make the catch. Don't worry about anybody else on your team.
That'll bring up a 3rd down and 10. The first down marker is right around the 48-yard line. A lot of time to throw here. Middle part of the field has a receiver. That one incomplete. Was looking in the direction of Buda. Buda had to go down for it and maybe even slipped a little bit. And the punting unit will come out with 6:59 on the clock.
And that's a missed opportunity for Salisbury's offense. They're using a lot of crossing routes behind the linebackers but in front of the safeties, where they're finding a lot of open space to work.
So Chris Orleman standing at his 32-yard line. Here, just inside 7 minutes to play in quarter number 2. Okay, they get good field position right around the 42-yard line. So if you go back to the first part of the game where you had the ball being, I believe, at the 3 and then at the 7, since then, Saucon Valley has really moved the ball effectively, has scored 2 touchdowns, and starting to get in a little bit of rhythm here.
They are, and you haven't seen Salisbury, other than the one offensive series, haven't really seen them get into their rhythm or their kind of groove. They need to do that if they want to stay in this game, because we're nearing just under 7 minutes left in the second quarter. If Saucon Valley is able to get another touchdown, I think they force Salisbury into a situation where they pretty much become one-dimensional, and they're putting a lot on Stevens' shoulder for Salisbury's offense.
So ball at the 41 to start things off, and powering through is Garcia. Garcia right to midfield. So Garcia, we mentioned, came into the contest with 377 yards on 38 carries. Okay, you coached here. You've had some pretty good running backs. Saucon Valley in general has had some tremendous running backs over the last, 5-6 years, maybe even more than that. But, can you put Garcia into a mix, the type of running back he is? Only a sophomore, but what do you see out of him so far?
You see a lot of elusiveness. He sees the field very well. He's very comfortable behind this offensive line, and he's not real big, so he can hide behind that offensive line a little bit to where the secondary really doesn't know where he's at.
This is Chris Mann on the carry, excuse me.
So he's able to use that to his advantage.
So Mann gets the carry and moves the chains once again. 6:06 on the clock. Saucon Valley with the ball, driving down the field to the 35, and the ball. And the score, excuse me, at 14-6. From the 35. And Garcia breaks through. He has some space on his feet, and Garcia will get knocked down and taken down right around the 5-yard line. So first and goal here for Saucon Valley. Again, I go back to Coach Tremble. He said once he finds the gap, he's pretty tough to bring down.
He is, and the one thing I like to see that he does is he comes in there, he hits the hole, he makes his decision, and he doesn't hesitate. He makes a decision, he goes north and south, gets downfield, and then when he gets into traffic, he's not trying to do too much. Puts 2 hands on the ball, just keeps running forward, and takes what he has.
So 5:05 on the clock, 14-6 Panthers. Mahaffey with 2 touchdowns so far, and they're driving once again inside 5 minutes to play.
20.
And diving through for the touchdown is Braden Legardo. So a touchdown by Legardo, and that increases the lead to 20-6.
The concern for Salisbury and Coach Circle was this offensive line, and right now they're living up to that concern for him. They are opening holes, they're getting on their men, and Salisbury tried to combat the size of Saucon Valley by using their athleticism. They only put 3 down linemen on the defense, and they utilized their linebackers behind that to try to allow them to get moving and get in space to where they can make tackles. Unfortunate for Salisbury, however, just not able to get around there, not able to get their guys, because the linemen are coming off their blocks. They're getting the push, and then they're coming off on the linebackers, and they're getting hands on them, not allowing them to scrape and use their athleticism. So they're effectively neutralizing the athleticism that Salisbury has defensively.
Well, Matt, that said, you look at this drive. There's 5 minutes left in the first half. If you're Salisbury, which kind of got yourself in the game, everything's moving. You're moving the ball effectively. The drive keeps you get stalled. At 21-6, you really don't want to give it the football again if you don't have to.
Correct. And we go back to the same thing we've always talked about with me. Saucon Valley came out, they won the toss, they deferred. If they have the opportunity to get the ball back and they go down and score and then get the ball in the second half, then we're looking at a huge turn of events. Salisbury, unfortunately for them, they are a passing team. If they do rely on that pass right now and completely abandon the run, they have an opportunity stop the clock on plays, giving Saucon Valley's offense a little bit more time if they're able to get that stop.
So picked up a 14-yard line across the 30 up towards the 33 is Chad Parton, and that's where Salisbury will bring the offense once again. Again, if you're just joining us here.
Sorry, Salisbury has had success throwing the ball tonight. They've had success finding open receivers. They just haven't been able to connect consistently enough. For them to get something going right now on this drive, they have to go back to that passing game, but they have to make sure they connect on the passes.
Again, for Salisbury, Trey Weber, their normal starter, got hurt in the Northwestern game, but it's been their backup quarterback who played last week and did really well in Quentin Stevens. Stevens, so far in, a game and a half or so, 10 carries for 58 yards, and passing-wise, 33 of 61 for 470 and 5 touchdowns. So that says a lot. You're only playing a game and a half. You've already passed for 500 yards. So this team does throw the football.
Correct. And the biggest thing I think you look at is you take the stats away. The biggest stat that I think stood out for Coach Circo with Stevens is the fact he stayed poised in a very tight overtime game last week against Wilson and was able to help propel their team to that victory.
So after the penalty, first down and 15. They have to get up to about the 43, 44-yard line. Looking to throw. Receiver right before that first down marker, maybe about 2 yards short, but just a bullet right to Buddha.
You see, again, Salisbury's receivers and passing game attacking that area right in front of the safeties, but just behind the linebackers. Saucon Valley, if they want to take that away, they're going to have to talk to their linebackers and get them to drop a little bit deeper and see their receivers a little bit better.
So they pick up 14 of those 15. The ball at the 42-yard line. Stevens the throw, and now he's going to try to run with the football. It goes absolutely nowhere.
Sacked by 85 and 65.
First guy in was Evan Diley. Diley, who's been out with an injury. This is his first game back. He was out in the preseason with a dislocated elbow, so we've seen him a couple times so far tonight, being a big part of what this team is made of, really, and having him back in the lineup gives you so much more.
Absolutely, and having him back, I think, on defense is the biggest part for Saucon Valley. He brings a lot of experience to this defensive front. He had played a lot last year as well as some the year before that.
Third down and 4. Looking to throw, and another completion made, and moving upfield once again is Pincarelli. So Pincarelli with about 4 catches so far tonight, and he came into the game, with 9. So, he's adding to that total pretty quickly.
And he's becoming a go-to receiver for Quentin Stevens in the Salisbury offense. But again, you have to take notice that they are attacking that left side of the Saucon Valley defense, where they have some youth in the secondary who's giving them a lot of respect, the receivers, not letting them behind them.
First and 10 from the 42. And getting a first down pickup is Quentin Stevens.
So that time defensively, the linebackers do bail out and do cover those receivers downfield. So here's the double-edged sword. What do you want to do? Do you bail out? Do you not allow them to make those completions behind you? Or do you stick in and try to control Quentin Stevens and not let him get around? So the one thing that Saucon Valley will probably do in a halftime defensively is talk to their defensive line, telling them not to rush as hard in the middle, kind of stay in their lanes and stay poised and controlled. Let Stevens step up into them.
Second down and 3. The ball sits at the 35-yard line. Low snap. Stevens to throw. Pumped the first time. Nothing there. Gets flushed out. Now he's going to throw, and that one incomplete. Goes off the hands of Pincarelli.
Good coverage downfield by the secondary on that play. Didn't give Stevens anywhere to look. The rush came from Saucon Valley, flushed them out, and then they saw the Salisbury offense went into the scramble drill where they had the receiver break to the inside. And there again, Stevens just misses him.
So 2:53 and a third down and 3. 21-6 is your score. Here comes the pressure. There's the toss. There's a completion made, and the first down, moving the chains once again, are the Salisbury Falcons. As a great job coming across the field was Weston Schaefer.
Starting to see a little with Salisbury's offense. It looked like Stevens is very comfortable rolling out to his left. Right-handed quarterback rolling out to his left usually is not something that they like to do, but it looks like Salisbury's offense is continuing to roll him out to his left. But when he's throwing to the right, he's more sticking in the pocket and not doing as much rollout, just reading from the pocket when he's throwing to the right.
We get a timeout here with 2:43 on the clock and a 21-6 score. If you're just joining us here on D11sports.com, Al DeCar alongside Matt Avancho. Dante Mahaffey from 20 yards at the 11-18 mark. Then Salisbury, a 9-yard touchdown by Quentin Stevens to Tim Buda, made it 7-6. Damian Garcia had a 70-yard plus run down to about the 3-yard line. And then Mahaffey went in from 3 yards to make it 14-6. And then Braden Legardo from 3 yards made it 21-6. And that's the scoring so far here in the first half of play. But Matt, it's an interesting matchup because, you know, it's the only game in town on that night. And then, you know, as you move forward with it, it's like you have an opportunity before Friday comes, you know, to be 3-1, to be, you know, a little bit ahead of the game. And then you can get ready for next week.
It is, and that's the one thing. Yes, you do give up a little bit with the short week in preparation for the game, but then you gain the extra day of preparation, and not only just preparation, but the extra day of healing for your players going into the next week's game, which I think that's a little bit underrated, but something that is really, really effective for teams, you know, about the middle part of the season.
Stevens looking to throw, middle part of the field. What a catch inside the 5. And I'll tell you what, when Tim Buda goes up and gets stuff like that, you have to be happy as a head coach.
And again, it's just attacking the middle part of that field. They found something they like. They're going to continue to come back to it. They can't abandon that because that's where they're having success.
So 2:15 on the clock. First and goal. And this will be a big loss. That one all the way back towards the 11-yard line.
Number 5, Aiden Redinger for Saucon Valley coming in from his linebacker spot. Not fooled by any kind of play action there. They hand it off to the second guy. He comes through, tackles in the backfield. So far tonight, Salisbury has not been able to do anything running the ball. They've only had 1 to 2 positive plays running the ball. Defensively, Saucon Valley is closing down that running game. It's the passing game they need to start locking down on.
We mentioned this is huge for them if they can get in here with 1:30 on the clock. The ball all the way back to the 12-yard line for Stevens. Stevens looks, nothing there, and now he has a lot of room, and Stevens is going to go in for the touchdown. Once he broke through, Stevens goes in 12 yards to cut into the lead.
And it's what we were talking about before. It's the defense for Saucon Valley is going to have to decide how they're going to play this with all the receivers out. When Stevens goes empty, there's nobody in the backfield with him. He looks like he's been given a green light to run the ball when he sees a lane, and he's finding a lot of space for them.
So it's 21-12, and they will go for the 2-point conversion. Five receivers wide, 2 far side, 3 to the near side for Stevens. And, you know, when that happens, I was just going to say, when that happens, that happens. You know, you kind of spread for a field for a good quarterback that can run, and you get the 2-point conversion, and it's 21-14.
I believe we'll see Salisbury continue offensively with that, coming back to that a little bit more and more and more, allowing Stevens time, let the defense drop, give him a lot of empty space, and then he'll just take the yards that he can get.
So with 1:17 on the clock, it's a 21-14 game. 2 touchdowns by Mahaffey. Touchdown from Quentin Stevens to Tim Buda. Braden Legardo also with a touchdown. And the last one here by Stevens plus his 2-point conversion to make it 21-14. Okay, now 1:17 on the clock. You got, 2 timeouts remaining. You're on the other side. You're of Salisbury. You have 3 timeouts remaining. So depending on what happens on the kickoff, if there's a fumble or anything, there's plenty of time for something to happen here.
There is a lot of time, and it's a lot of time for either team, as you stated. It depends on what's going to happen. Saucon Valley, obviously, if they can get the ball up the field, get them in a good position, they won't run the ball necessarily as much, but they're going to put the ball in the air a little bit to try to force it down the field quickly. For Salisbury, they need to get stops. They need to get stops and keep them in bounds.
So they'll kick off here, 1:17 remaining. Glad you could join us here for the D11sports.com Game of the Week, presented by St. Luke's Sports Medicine. Al DeCaro alongside Matt Evancho from Saucon Valley High School, calling League football in this matchup. And this one will dribble down to right around the 20-yard line. And trying to pick that one up is Garcia and get a flag right at the end of that play.
I believe we're going to see a block in the back against Saucon Valley on the return. Put his hands on the back as he was trying to block. Didn't really get a lot of contact, but enough just to get the flag.
So we get back to my point before. Salisbury has 3 timeouts. Now you pinned them. Now an opportunity, if your defense can come up big, make something happen.
I agree. And I think what you'll see from Saucon Valley, they're going to come out and they're going to run the ball. I don't know if they're going to risk it and try to push it down the field too fast. Now, if offensively, if something happens and they get a big play, they still have those 2 timeouts, then they might change their mindset. But I think they're going to try to stay a little safe, a little conservative early on in this drive.
Yeah, they'll start things off from the 13-yard line. And they'll start things on the ground. If you're Salisbury, you're starting to call these timeouts or not yet?
I think you have to wait until you see what happens after this play, because you don't want to obviously give Saucon Valley a chance to get their team going as well.
So inside a minute, they get up to about the 18-yard line. Down by 7, Salisbury. And Saucon Valley is just going to try to eat up some of this clock. And they pop it on the ground once again. So Coach Serco not calling a timeout.
I think at this point, Coach Serco might be thinking that we'll just let this quarter run out, let the half run out. As they've played, you really don't want to give Saucon Valley a chance, and you can take this 21-14 deficit into the locker room, regroup, come out and play a second half.
So 9 seconds left. So now the penalty on Saucon Valley. And now all of a sudden you have 9 seconds left. Not even if it's a field goal, if you get the ball back and kick a field goal, anything's possible. But
wouldn't be surprised if we just see Saucon Valley come out and take a knee. Well, they start the clock anyway, so they won't even have to run a play.
So 1 half complete. 21-14 is your score in favor of Saucon Valley. As we get to halftime, again, scoring in this one, Dante Mahaffey from 20 yards, Quentin Stevens to Tim Buda from 9. Damian Garcia got about 70-yard pickup down to the 3-yard line, and Mahaffey took it in from there. Make it 14-6. Braden Legardo scored a short touchdown inside the 5 once again, and then Quentin Stevens from 12 yards add the 2-point conversion to make it 21-14 at that point here at the half. Matt, obviously,
as you look at both teams going into the locker room, for Saucon Valley, you're happy with your start. Unfortunately, they weren't able to continue that quick drive.
All right, more action coming your way from Saucon Valley. Be right back after this.
2, test 1.
We're back. 21-14 is your score. Al DiCarlo and Matt Avancho, glad you could join us here for our D11Sports.com game of the week presented by St. Luke's Sports Medicine. And as we have done in the past, we have our student reporters that take part in our broadcast. And we're at the half right now. Grace Albano, a junior, Megan Kane, a junior, and Nick Bortz, a junior, all down on the field. And they were down with Bruce Badgley getting ready for some halftime thoughts. Guys, take it away.
Hi, Bruce Badgley down here on the field, District 11 Sports, filling in for Dave Mike. To my right are student interns, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
I'm Nicholas Bortz. I'm from Saucon Valley.
I'm Megan Kane. I'm from Saucon Valley. I'm Grace Albano, and I'm from Saucon Valley.
And like I said, I'm Bruce Badgley. Normally I work on District 3, but filling it today because Dave Micah unfortunately couldn't make it out here to the game. But, a couple of you guys talked to the coaches at halftime. Why don't you fill us in on who you talked to and what you talked about?
Salisbury's Coach Circolo talked about how they need to stop the rushing game and conserve their defensive power and stop the quarterback of Saucon Valley, Dante Mahaffey.
Saucon Valley head coach Brad Trembler thought there were lots of ups and downs in the first half, but in the second half they're looking to score early and control the pace of the game. I think the second half is going to be really close and it's going to be a tough matchup, but we'll see what team comes up on top. Back to you, Alan, Matt.
All right, guys, thanks a lot down in the field and doing a good job. We've been watching them for, the last couple of weeks, and they've been out and about and getting the job done and doing their thing. And, I think they've done an outstanding job to this point, covering the last couple of games that Saucon Valley has had, and they're enjoying it. They got their shirts now, they got everything in their gear, and they're excited to be in. We'll see them back at the end of the game with our D-11 Sports Player of the Game a little bit later. Matt, 21-14, we talked about the first half and obviously an opportunity to play two halves of football, but right now it's a good one. Expected in the beginning of this game as well to be a good one.
We did. I think what we saw was Salisbury came out. They came out quick. They came out fast. But defensively for Saucon Valley, they were able to withstand that quick surge and then able to get their offense going a little bit later than Salisbury did. They got out to a quick lead, but then as we expected, Salisbury able to come back and just do enough to stay in this game offensively and defensively. We'll see what Salisbury does defensively to try to slow down the rushing attack of Saucon Valley, the big offensive line. How can they combat that? How can they counteract that? Then as well as the other side of it, we'll see what Salisbury can do offensively. If they continue, we'll go to that passing game. So Saucon Valley defensively has to figure out how they're going to defend the attack and the athletes of Salisbury. They've been eaten up a little bit in the passing game over the middle. They've been eaten up a little bit by the throws to the outside, attacking the right side or the left side of the defense of Saucon Valley. And then they have Quentin Stevens, the athlete who's at quarterback, who's able to just spread the Saucon Valley defense out and then hit up on the middle. And we saw him with the touchdown, with the 2-point conversion to get it to 21-14. So we have to see what they'll do from there.
We go down to the field and we take a listen to the Saucon Valley High School Marching Band. So we are back. Great job there by the Saucon Valley High School Marching Band. 21-14 is your score as we prepare you for the second half of action.
5-0, 9-5.
And, Matt, let's get back to, the scoring in this one.
You get $52.50. Also, if Eileen Donnelly, Brushak, if you would come up to the booth real quick, please.
In the scoring in this one, first drive of the game, 20-yard touchdown by Dante Mahaffey. They came in at 11-18 mark to make it 7-0. Mahaffey, obviously, only a sophomore, but does a great job with this team.
He's in his second year starting for this team offensively. Was the quarterback last year, had a successful season. They were looking to him to do more, and he has been doing that for Saucon Valley tonight. Obviously, with 2 touchdowns, the 1 long touchdown run for him, and then the quarterback sneak over the middle where he got the touchdown. But just orchestrating the offense, and they're not asking him to do too much. He's just using that running game, following that offensive line, and letting them do the work.
From there, Salisbury, a 9-yard touchdown from Quentin Stevens to Tim Buda, made it 7-6. We talk about Buda, we talk about Pincarelli, we talk about Weston Schaefer, Chad Parton. All have been a part of this offense in the first half.
They have, but I don't think any of them have been as big as Quentin Stevens at the quarterback position. I think he has been doing what he's had to do to basically keep this Salisbury team in this game, doing it running the ball, doing it throwing the ball, even doing it with some penalties, throwing the ball up and getting some penalties from Saucon Valley's defense. But you have to start there. And the offensive line, you can't forget about them. They're going against a big defensive front from Saucon Valley. They're giving Stevens a lot of time to sit back in the pocket and find those receivers downfield.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Damian Garcia. Garcia had a big run, about 70 yards, took it inside the 5-yard line, led to a Dante Mahaffey touchdown. But Garcia, came into the contest with over 377 yards, up over 400, almost reaching 500. Type of player, he's kind of needs to be in the second half for Saucon Valley really to pull out the win.
And again, another sophomore playing for this offense. He's not being asked to do too much. They're letting the offensive line control the line of scrimmage, and they're letting the running backs, whether it's Damian Garcia, whether it's Braden Legardo, they're letting them run behind that offensive line and fullback Chris Mann, and just doing enough to continue to move the chains and continuing to move the sticks down the field. And they need to get off to a big start, as like our student reporter said on the field. Coach Trembler wants Saucon Valley to get off to a fast start, score some touchdowns, and then be able to just play defense and take the victory tonight.
From there, a touchdown by Braden Legardo made it 21-6, and then Quentin Stevens on that 12-yard run. He added the 2-point conversion. You mentioned Stevens. Obviously, Trey Weber has that club on his left hand, not playing. But at the same time, if you are Andy Serco right now, you know what you get from Weber, but now all of a sudden you get a second idea of another quarterback that, when they're both healthy, it could be a little interesting for the Salisbury team.
It does add a lot of versatility, a lot of diversity that they can utilize going down the road in the rest of the season. When they get Weber back, he can sit in there and be more of a pocket passer. And then when you get Stevens in there, if they need to, he can run the ball. But you can't forget about the fact that Stevens also has the ability to throw the ball as well.
So we get ready to start quarter number 3, 21-14, Thursday night football here from Saucon Valley High School. Al DiCarlo, Matt Avancho. And you mentioned this before, with the Panthers getting the football to start the second half could be key. You go back to the end of the second half, end of the second quarter, where Saucon Valley opted not to call the timeouts and keep the drive going for Salisbury. We'll see what happens here in the second half. That from the 18-yard line, and Garcia looked like he was going to get down. Now does right around the 32. So a good field position to start. Okay, if you're just joining us here on D11sports.com, Game of the Week presented by St. Luke's Sports Medicine. Al DiCarlo alongside Matt Avancho. 21-14 is your score as we start quarter number 3. Again, these two teams are 2-1 on the season. Salisbury beat Penn Argyl 25-16. They lost to Northwestern on the road 38-17. And then last week, one of their biggest wins, 27-24 in overtime to make them 2-1. For Saucon Valley, they lost 45-13 opening night to Southern Lehigh. They beat Penn Argyl 24-7. They beat Palmerton last week convincingly by a score of 35-14. And they get things going on the ground. That's Mahaffey. And Mahaffey right at that first down marker. He'll be about a half yard short of the first down. So we're underway here in the third quarter.
That again was Dante Mahaffey running his read option to the left side behind Nick Warnke at his offensive tackles position, as well as offensive lineman David Osman and Cody Sweeney open up the hole over to the left side, and having Damian Garcia unselfishly following up in the hole and being his lead blocker.
Minute into quarter number 3. Second down and a long 1.
30 on count.
On the ground, Garcia busts to the outside, has some space down the sideline, still on his feet inside the 30-yard line, and finally gets knocked out of bounds.
There's no ref.
Actually, they're going to mark it around the 33.
Yes.
And he's well over 100 yards now in the night.
33.
We always talk about the offensive line and how they open up holes for the running backs, but you can't forget about receivers on the outside. Saucon Valley typically, perennially a running team, so you need to have receivers who are going to block, and that time it was number 11, Ty Senses, sticking with Tim Buda down the sideline, sticking with him and not letting him get to Damian Garcia before that large gain.
That, you don't throw that much if you're, Saucon Valley, but, at the same time, that being said, you can maybe try to catch him off guard, but when the run's working, why not keep it going? And, they continue to push forward and get in those positive yards. This time it's the fullback, Chris Mann.
42 and 72.
And when you're consistently on first down gaining 5, 6, 7, 8 yards, you're going to stick to that running game. And I know it's hard to do. A lot of coaches want to get out of their game. They overthink it a little bit too much, and they think, I have to start throwing the ball. But when your running game's working as effectively as it is for Saucon Valley, there's no reason to go away from it.
So second down and 5. Ball at the 27-yard line, 21-14 in favor of the Panthers with 10:16 on the clock. Here in the third, on the ground, Garcia. Garcia sees a lot of white jerseys and doesn't get much. It'll be an interesting third down and about 3.5 coming up, maybe a little more.
30 tackled by 57.
And we were just talking about the fact how Saucon Valley likes to run the ball. Here they're in a third and like a medium situation. This kind of makes you think maybe they throw the ball. Will they try to run the ball? But the nice thing for Saucon Valley, I think you're in 2-down territory inside the 30-yard line. I think you're just outside of field goal range for your kicker. All you need to do is get a manageable third down, get yourself a couple yards, get you into a decent fourth down situation.
Legardo in the backfield.
So third down and a long 4. And pushing forward. And how about that? The extra lunge still on his feet. Wow. Talking about, when you're Legardo, talking about taking the team with you, that's exactly what he did. He put him on his back and kept on going for an extra 9 yards.
He absolutely did. And the thing about that you kind of overlook is the fact that there was a missed blocking assignment from the beginning on the offensive line. There was a defensive tackle and defensive end that met him in the backfield, and he was able to get through that tackle and then continue to push downfield and continue to move the ball and get them inside the 10-yard line.
So inside 9 minutes, 21-14 is your score. And it's first and goal. Ball sitting right at the 10-yard line.
Yes. 28.
And straight through, gaining about 5 is Chris Mann. So again, utilizing the fullback, utilizing the guys in the backfield very effectively here on this opening drive of the third quarter.
They are, and I think we'll also see at some point, we talked about how they might not pass a lot. There's going to be a point in time here where they're going to sneak that pass play in, like you were mentioned, just to keep them honest.
.8:16 and counting, third quarter. Ball sitting right on the 5-yard line. .21-14. And Legardo goes down to about the 1-yard line. They're going to call him just outside. That's inside the 1. Matt, you coached a while. Those are the frustrating ones when you're not usually the starting guy, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, I scored, right? No, you did not.
And it looked like the official on the near side was waiting for the official on the far side to make the call. He just wasn't sure. It looked like Legardo was in, but you're talking it's just inches away from being in the end zone.
So with that, we may be even talking Mahaffey here. .720, taking a lot of time here in.
20 in the backfield.
And Mahaffey loses the football and now goes forward. And no signal yet. I think that would be a touchdown. It is. So Mahaffey picked it up and goes in for a yard.
As you said, he dropped the snap. I think he was just looking to get behind his offensive line a little bit too fast. Needed to secure that snap, but able to secure the ball, pick it up off the ground, and then get into the end zone with the help of a push from his fullback Chris Mann and running back Braden Legardo.
So a good start if you're Saucon Valley. A, took some time off the clock, and B, you now have a 2-touchdown advantage once again. That one is up. And good by Alex Manata. 28-14 at the 7:05 mark.
With the late start out, we weren't able to talk about the keys to the game that both teams wanted to do. So let's talk about this now and see how well they predicted what they wanted to do. For Salisbury, they wanted to come in offensively and establish a balanced attack. I think we can say, other than Quentin Stevens running the ball, they've been more of a passing team. They haven't had that balanced attack just yet. Offensively for Saucon Valley, they wanted to control the tempo. Offensively, I think they've been able to do that. However, defensively for Salisbury, they wanted to recognize formations and align properly. That while they might be getting in position and aligning properly, they're just not getting off blocks from that offensive line quick enough to make the plays that they need to defensively. And then for Saucon Valley defensively, they needed to limit big plays. And when we look at the 2 touchdowns that Salisbury scored, they've been both. One was a drive, one was a big play. They just quite haven't been able to do that yet. So it would be interesting to see now how all these keys play out as they talked about them earlier and then talked about at halftime. How do they take care of them in the second half?
Interesting there, and that's why they give us our keys to the game. And this one is juggled, now picked up at the 16-yard line and taken there by Tim Buddha. And Buddha gets driven down right around the 34-yard line. And we'll see the Salisbury offense come onto the field. Kyle Upshaw, number 29, is dinged up at the end of that play and walking to the far sideline. So 6:57 on the clock, 28-14 your score. And Salisbury, they have not been on the field in a long time. When you think about it, at the end of the first half, it was, Saucon Valley, and then now a long drive here. So it's been a while since you've seen the Salisbury offense.
It has been, but when they were on the field, they did have success. So we'll be interested to see how they come out in the second half with that success.
Turning and looking to throw, and that one incomplete, was looking in the direction of Buddha.
And we expected those again as Quentin Stevens as a backup quarterback overthrowing some receivers. He needs to take a look also. He's coming downhill on that rollout. Did not have many defenders in front of him. Could have very easily tucked the ball and picked up a big gain for Salisbury. And that's something he needs to feel and start to get a little bit more comfort with.
Quentin Stevens stands 6'2", but sometimes when he comes out of that pocket, he looks a little bit bigger, when he was moving towards our way. Second down and 10 from the 34-yard line. He pumps. Now here comes some pressure. Throws. That hangs up there a little long, but coming up with the reception once again is one of his favorite targets in Buddha. Again, Buddha came in with 10 catches for 82 yards, and he's been a big factor of the game tonight.
We've been seeing Buddha as well as Pingarelli as Stevens' big 2 targets offensively. So we can take those 2 and Stevens' running game. That's kind of where Salisbury's having success. And again, that time they hit the receiver just over the linebacker level in front of the safeties in that middle part of the field.
From the 44, Stevens, and he will go down. One of the first guys in there was Diley.
And we got a good look at that play again where Salisbury tries to spread out the defense of Saucon Valley. And as they do that, then Stevens takes a drop, waits a couple seconds, sees the field opens up, finds his lane, tries to go. That time the defensive front does their job, doesn't let him get outside, and then collapses on him as he commits to the middle.
So inside 6 minutes to play, third quarter, 28-14 in favor of Saucon Valley. Second down and 11 from the 45. It's been an all-passing attack so far for Salisbury for the most part of the game. Off the back foot throw, and has Buddha again, and Buddha will make another first down and a huge reception down to the 25-yard line.
That time Saucon Valley defense does get a rush, but the offensive line gives Stevens just enough time to find Buddha once again on that crossing route in the middle of the field behind the linebackers.
So driving, they'll mark it at the 24, and they'll line up Pincarelli far side. Near side is Schaefer. Now Buddha in motion. Stevens going to take it himself and waits and tries to get Pincarelli in the back of the end zone and can't hold on to the football. And then there's a flag that is thrown at the end of the play.
So you have to credit Stevens with his athleticism trying to make something out of that play. Unfortunately, since it was a designed run play and there was a miscommunication in the backfield, there were linemen downfield, so that Salisbury's going to get hit with an eligible receiver downfield.
So the big penalty here on the Falcons. We'll march them back. No, I say that, but they did not because Saucon Valley opted to decline the penalty and put the ball back at the 24-yard line.
And that time, Coach Trembler decides to decline the penalty to take the down away from Salisbury as opposed to giving him another opportunity offensively.
So here's Stevens, and he just gets that off and puts it in the hands of Pincarelli. Pincarelli breaks a tackle now in second. Still on his feet, dives forward inside the 5, down to the 3-yard line. So great job by Pincarelli to get yards after the catch. And then they'll mark it at the 4.
Pincarelli does a nice job eluding the first tackler in Braden Legardo, who's coming from his linebacker spot, and then just lowers his shoulder into the secondary of Saucon Valley and uses his size advantage to push inside the 5-yard line.
So first and goal from the 4. Stevens waits and now throws, and the touchdown for the Falcons. And Chad Parton with the touchdown. Parton came in with 5 touchdowns, make that 6 on a 4-yard touchdown.
That was the first time we saw Quentin Stevens roll out to his right side tonight. It was, again, just a single route, similar play to what they did earlier. I excuse myself, the second time they went out to the right, where it's just a one-man route, and they're looking to find that quick hitch where he just gets his open in just inside the end zone.
Stevens going for the 2-point conversion, and the pass across is complete to Pincarelli. And that's the second time they've converted on a 2-point conversion, and all of a sudden it's a 6-point game, 28-22. And, Matt, this is shaping up to be a very interesting game as we still have 4:47 left in the third.
It is, and it's going to come down to see who defensively can make the play. Which defense is going to be able to make the stop when it's needed, because right now we haven't seen either defense really be able to make a stop. It's just been either penalties or it's been turnover with the time at the end of the quarter, or end of the half.
So if you're just joining us here in quarter number 3, Dante Mahaffey with a 1-yard touchdown run made it 28-14. That came at the 7:05 mark, and then at the 4:47 mark moments ago, Chad Parton 4 yards from Quentin Stevens. Added 2-point conversion, Stevens to Pincarelli, and we are sitting at 28-22 in favor of the Panthers. And looking at next week, a big matchup for Salisbury as they'll take on Notre Dame. And for Saucon Valley, they will be on the road in Slatington to take on Northern Lehigh. We had a chance to see the Bulldogs and Catasauqua a few weeks back, and the Bulldogs are an interesting team. They have some the offensive line, they have a couple players on there that could, be a big impact.
They can be. And we saw last week Coach Raduzzi and Bangor was able to come out, and they really took it to Northern Lehigh and basically controlled all aspects of that game for a huge win.
I didn't see you making that mistake. I didn't think you would.
It's been a while, Coach Raduzzi, and I should know because he was at Liberty last year, so it's not that.
Yeah, it's not like exactly. I don't see the problem is. I interviewed him a couple times, and it's interesting because he's a football coach, and that's the key. Obviously he'll always have that green in him, but now he's coaching a different team. It just happens to be right down the street and a rival. and he's going to be part of the 100th game too. So,
And I think that's the big thing. I'd like to talk to him during that week to see how he feels. How is it different now?
on the ground by Garcia for a short pickup, right around the 35-yard line.
That time, Salisbury defensively able to find some seams and get into those seams and kind of slow down that running play a little earlier than they have been on some of the other plays. But again, Saucon Valley's in a very manageable and very, very advantageous second down position.
Ball sits at the 34-yard line. And keeping it himself is Mahaffey. Mahaffey faked everyone in one of his biggest runs of the night across the 45 down to about the 42-yard line.
And you see these calls are coming just at the right time where they're getting that defense sucked in. That's when Mahaffey's able to pull the ball and get to the outside. And again, you have to credit the offense line and the receivers and the running backs who are out in front blocking for the runners on each and every one of these plays.
So 3:36 on the clock, 28-22. And as much as you haven't been able to stop the Salisbury passing game, you have not been able to stop the running game of the Panthers. Trying to give that one up to Chris Mann, but nowhere to go. And quickly in was Kyle Caleri. Caleri does a good job with this team. We talked to Coach about Caleri. He's the leader defensively, and offensively he's kind of like that utility player. He'll play in every position.
And if we refer back to what our student reporters, what Nip Wertz and Megan Kane had mentioned about Salisbury, Coach Circle wanted his defense to try to get off the field a little bit sooner, conserve some energy. At these schools, you have smaller rosters. A lot of these players are going both ways, so they can't afford to be out here battling against this big offensive line in the Saucon Valley offense too long, or they get worn down.
Here's Garcia, far side, has some space. Caleri trying to get him, and they just get a piece of him inside the 15-yard line.
And once again, the receivers downfield, Ty Sensis blocking, giving Garcia that extra room. But you have to credit Caleri in his chase, his pursuit down the field. I was at a game last week out, and the offensive player broke free for a 65-yard run, and everybody thought he was in the end zone for the touchdown. The defender hustled downfield, tackled him inside the 5. The team ended up stopping him, and the team came away with no points. So you have to credit those plays because now Salisbury at least has a chance to make a stop.
Approaching the 2-minute mark of quarter number 3, 28-22. 1st and 10. They'll mark this one right at the 15-yard line. Split 2 receivers to the far side. And they're going to ground the ball from Legardo, just flies straight out. But fortunately for Saucon Valley, they get the ball right back.
Evan Diley for Saucon Valley offensive lineman saw the ball on the ground and quickly goes and scoops it up and falls on it for a long gain on first down. It was funny to watch that because everybody's converging on Garcia and Legardo running the ball, and the receivers are out blocking. There was nobody. The ball was just sitting there for the longest time.
How about Diley? He's an impact. Even on there, you have the heads up. You go down there, and all of a sudden the ball's sitting.
True, it would have been.
And you can get a first down here.
Have them pick it up and score.
Yeah, well,
anytime you can have an offensive lineman score a touchdown, you have to.
That would be a comeback for him. He'd be happy about that. They only need a yard for a first down, and they'll get a little bit more than the yard on the touchdown by Legardo. So a 5-yard touchdown run by Legardo to increase the lead to 34-22. Excuse me.
And you have to be happy for Legardo after that, not only after that fumble, but the fact he was the one who drove him down there as well on the previous drive, but didn't come away with the touchdown. This time he's able to finish it off in the end zone, getting the touchdown.
So again, Salisbury went for the 2-point conversion earlier. And that they will be going for the 2-point conversion here. Maffey keeps it himself and gets smothered, so no 2-point conversion, and it's 34-22.
That time they ran the option out of the power backfield to the left side, but the Salisbury defense was not fooled. Maffey saw a lane, stuck his nose up inside, but the defense of Salisbury able to close in on him and pull him down just short of converting that 2-point conversion.
Hey, Matt, your thoughts going for a 2-point conversion there?
I think I kind of like it. To put you up 14 right now, you still have to play, and there's a lot of game left. You still have a lot to play. Usually what happens as coaches, we have a 2-point go for 2 list. It'll tell us, statistically why you go for 2 on when you're ahead by this many points, when you're behind by this many points.
Did you ever listen to it?
Most of the time I did. I think there was maybe once or twice I chose not to, and I don't remember why.
What if I made the 2-point conversion list and just tell you, hey, this is what I want, this is what I wouldn't? Do you think anybody would listen to that?
I don't think anybody would listen to that one.
Just checking. So 55 ticks on the clock, third quarter, 34-22 Saucon Valley. Now every possession here for the Falcons is huge, being that time will become a factor. That one skips up, and it's picked up right at the 20-yard line and taken there by Chad Parton. And Parton scrambles, and if he gets to the outside, it could be dangerous, and finally gets taken down right around the 42-yard line. And Parton is the player that he's concerned of. Coach was concerned of from the beginning. Kind of contain him, keep him in check. He's elusive. Things happen, and he's made his share of catches, but and he had the last touchdown. But at the same time, they've done a good job with him overall.
They have, and I think they've done a nice job just limiting what he's been able to do. But at the same time, when you think about that, has he become a little bit of a decoy? Have they been able to just pull him away from the play and allow Buddha, who's basically been the big receiving threat yardage-wise this game, getting free a lot down the middle of the field?
1st and 10 from the 43, 45 ticks on the clock, and this one right into the hands of Pingarelli. And Pingarelli will get out of bounds. Actually, they'll keep him in bounds right around the 40-yard line.
And just as we mentioned about Buddha being a big threat, Pingarelli been the other threat for Salisbury in the passing game. Again, Coach Circo and the offense is actually, they're using Stevens, they're using their athletes very well and at good spots and good times for the offense.
From the 40-yard line, possibly the last play of quarter number 3. Stevens to throw, pumps a couple times, and now gets taken down. Actually, the ball pops out. And we will have another play here with 14 ticks on the clock. Again, we talk about the offense, pass. We haven't really seen that many runs. Maybe a handful of runs if we're lucky. The entire game so far through almost 3 quarters.
I think we saw the majority of the time Salisbury in the first half and early in the first quarter, they tried to establish a running game and they just weren't able to get anything going productively. So it's kind of forced them into this passing offense for this game.
Looking to throw and trying to move upfield was Tim Buddha, and he gets popped off the ball.
That's 2 big plays for Saucon Valley defensively. One with the convergence on Stevens in the pocket. This time it's the receiver for Salisbury not bringing it in where he had some yards and some room to play with.
Just like that, 3rd down and 10 from the 40. Stevens thought about it. He was looking to run at first. Nick Warnke, one of the guys in there. So they'll end the 3rd quarter, and with it, decision time. Do you go for it here, which I believe they will, or do they keep it in for the, into the 4th quarter or not?
I think we're going to see Salisbury definitely go for it right now. I think what we're going to see, they're going to try to spread out the Saucon Valley defense like they have been all night, and then identify where, if they can, Stevens can run up the middle, or if he can't run, trying to find Buddha on some sort of crossing route over the middle of the field like they have been all night.
Fourth quarter action coming up right after this. We'll be back 34-22. (34-22) is your score as we get ready for quarter number 4. And here comes that defense for Saucon Valley. And Stevens gets hit as he throws, but that ball is incomplete. Boy, that was a close play downfield as they were going for Weston Schaefer, but he could not come up with the catch. That was like the Malachi Crunch back there. You remember the Malachi Crunch, Happy Days? You're a little young for that. You don't even know.
No, I watched the Happy Days. I did. The kids on the field are too young to know about Happy Days. But you have to credit Stevens in the Salisbury. He gave his receiver an opportunity. And it's going to come down to, I think, for Salisbury offensively, can they get someone other than Pingarelli and Buddha in the passing game? Because at this point, Saucon Valley has to be keen on them. You're going to need Schaefer to come up with some catches, and Parton's going to have to try to get himself free in this fourth quarter.
So, with that, you try to go for the big play. You don't get it. Now, I'm not going to say this is the knockout punch, but if you're Saucon Valley, you're going to run the football. If you can take the time off the clock and, create something, you put yourself in a good position.
I think that's
on the
exactly
ground
what
again.
You'll see just the running game, and you're going to see them try to chew up a lot of this clock.
I agree with that. That one gets across the 45 up towards the 47 as Damien Garcia has done a great job tonight once again.
And as you watch this, you can see how Saucon Valley's offense is slowing it down. They're just going to continue to run the ball, continue to just let the clock go. There's another opportunity here. The other Thursday night game out, I don't know, maybe it's Thursday nights, where potentially a lineman could win player of the game. I just think I'm going to get outvoted on this one this week.
Well, you'll see. Garcia's just been tremendous. I mean, there's a flag on the play, but, Garcia is, closing in almost 200 yards tonight.
He has to be, and I think he's doing just enough. Like I said, he's not trying to do too much. He's doing just enough behind that offensive line to continue his team to run down the field positive yards.
St. Luke's is the region's largest sports medicine provider covering more than 100,000 athletes.
So 10:52 on the clock, 34-22 is your score in favor of Saucon Valley. You're watching our D11sports.com game of the week presented by St. Luke's Sports Medicine here on a Thursday night. Next week we will be in Lehighton for Lehighton and Panther Valley.
I'm actually excited for that game, Al. That'll be the first time to be in Lehighton's new stadium since they moved there a few years ago. The last year I was coaching, we played them in what ended up being their final game at the old stadium by the school. So it'd be nice to see that new turf field, the new stadium, and how that looks.
Yeah, I did a soccer game a while back on that new stadium, which is pretty impressive. You'll be in heaven when you get there. Second down and 12, and not much room to move through was Chris Mann.
Chris Mann gets the call on second and long, and right into the teeth of that Salisbury defense. They're stacking up that middle. They're not giving any kind of room. They're not playing the pass at all for Saucon Valley. And again, I don't believe we'll see Saucon Valley throw the ball right now. They're just going to run it, and then they're going to try to set up either an opportunity to punt the ball away and at least make Salisbury go for a long drive on the next series.
Third down and 8. The ball sits at the 46-yard line. And a whistle and a timeout here for the Panthers. I want to thank, Bob Fry for his hospitality, as always, here at Saucon Valley, and game on a Thursday night as well. And obviously gives a different perspective, for the students, cheerleaders out, bands out, everyone's out in full force. For a football game, we'll have 3 Thursday night games this year. We had Catasauqua and Northern Lehigh. Next week we have Panther Valley and Lehighton, and this one as well. So, it gives you kind of a different kind of feel. And then again, it gives you some more time to scout the next week. We thank Bob Fry again for his hospitality.
It does. And I just want to point out the one thing you notice, you'll see the Saucon Valley cheerleaders, they're wearing blue ribbons in their hair. The Saucon Valley student section wearing blue tonight in support of pediatric cancer. It's their mini-thon, which is modeled after Penn State's dance marathon, where the school will run a fundraiser to try to raise money to support the research that's being done at the Hershey Medical Center and Children's Hospital with the support of Penn State as well.
9:30 on the clock, 34-22 is your score. And popping off some defenders, and that's close to the first down marker. I think the spot's going to give it to him, move the chains. Well, so much for me saying that, because now it's a 4th down. It looks closer than, from up here, it looks much closer.
It does, definitely looks closer. Knowing Coach Krumzak, the offense coordinator for Saucon Valley, I believe you're going to see Saucon Valley come out and go for it on 4th down to try to ice this game.
So 4th goal, and they will move the chains across the 45 down to about the 43-yard line. The run there by Legardo. Okay, you look at Saucon Valley, they've been using, while we're talking about the receivers, Saucon Valley's done a great job with their running backs all through.
They've used Legardo, they've used Garcia, and both of them have been very effective. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Legardo come out of this game with close to 100 yards as well, rushing.
.8:26 on the clock, 34-22. And Saucon Valley, by virtue of moving the chains, they'll be able to milk a little more clock off this one. Besides, try to preserve and get their 3rd victory. Man popping off a defender, getting across the 40.
Legardo on the carry.
Excuse me, that was Legardo. Legardo at 5'9", 200. So between Legardo, Man, and Garcia, over 200 yards once again on the game.
Legardo's one of the multi-sport athletes at Saucon Valley, also a very accomplished wrestler for Coach Shirk's wrestling team at Saucon Valley, who's had a real good success. And as you'll see, a lot of these football players are multi-sport athletes. A lot of them wrestle, play basketball, lacrosse, baseball. They're always doing something, and they're very active in what they do around school.
2nd down and 6. The ball sits at the 40-yard line. And as expected, they will keep it on the ground. Another carry by Legardo. Garcia set to check back in. At least he wants to. Not sure if he is coming in yet, but he's sitting there right by the coach saying, here he comes.
And he'll get an opportunity here to try to help the Saucon Valley offense kind of continue to wind down this clock. If he can get a hole here and get a seam, he might be able to break this for a big gain.
.648, 34-22 is your score. 3rd down and 4 from the 38-yard line. Maybe someone moved. There's Garcia. Garcia has a seam, and he is off to the races once again inside the 30. And we'll go out of bounds right around the 20-yard line.
Garcia pushed out by Chad Harton.
You have to credit on that. The offensive line in the block of Nick Warnke, he gets into his linebacker at the 2nd level and just completely buries him into the ground. One thing they might want to talk about with Garcia is just at the end of that play, staying in bounds. I know the clock stops with the reset of the first down sticks, but that's a habit he wants to get into. He knows the team is trying to run the clock down. On that play, after you get up there, just go down to the ground, especially if you're just going to run out of bounds.
Josh Folk from Lehigh Valley Live telling us he's over 200. And, we expect the runs that he's had, that he's been very productive. When you have over 150 in the first half, in that range, But they've been spraying the ball around between those three guys and doing a good job.
They have, and I'd be interested to see if the Saucon Valley rushing attack, have they been able to reach 400 yards tonight? Because if that's something that they're doing, they're going to continue to build on that throughout the season.
And the thing is, and we've always talked about, it's coming, but you got to stop it.
And that's the hard thing. I mean, we talked about that with Northern Lehigh. Northern Lehigh offensively only runs a handful of plays. You kind of know what you're going to be, what they're going to attack you with, but they just run it so well. And that's the same thing with Saucon Valley. They run a handful of offensive plays, and they're going to run the ball, but they have a very good offensive line, and they run it well. It's just so hard to defend. Saucon Valley quickly comes back to the same play where they pull the guard and tackle and have Garcia follow them up the right side, and they're able to get into another very successful second down after being second and 15. Or I'm sorry, first and 15.
Yeah, we're closing in on 6 minutes on the clock. And the ball at the 17-yard line. And they can get another first down. And this one, go to Chris Mann. Mann gets inside the 15 down to about the 14-yard line. That one thing is,
at what point did this offensive drive start? Because you're looking at them drive down the field, they're just eating clock because Saucon Valley scored 55 seconds left in the third quarter, last time they had the ball. Salisbury came out, they moved the ball a little bit, and Saucon Valley got the ball back 10, 11 minutes, and we're looking at over 6 minutes on this drive currently.
Yeah, they've done a tremendous job with it. Again, you get another first down here, and you get to go another minute and a half off the clock. Third down, ball sits at the 14-yard line. And that's Garcia. And Garcia will be, depending on where they spot, it should be first and goal. I think they got it right at the 10-yard line and move the chains.
You're correct. We do have first and goal with just under 5 now left in this game. This will be most likely the capper on the game.
First and goal from the 10. Milking some extra time off that clock. And again, it's man going nowhere.
And at this point out of the Saucon Valley offense, you're in no hurry at all. You have it's down inside your 10-yard line, less than 4 minutes left in the game. You're up by 12. And you're basically controlling the line of scrimmage completely. So you're in no hurry. You don't even need to worry about scoring here unless you want to try on fourth down, possibly kicking a field goal.
So the ball at the 9, second and goal. Garcia takes this one and gets down to about the 6.5.
Talking about 5. Maybe that's 6. That's 6.
And you mentioned the drive. I mean, this is continuing to roll down. We're inside 3 minutes, and unless something earth-shattering comes. I mean, this is, you punch it in here, and obviously that is the knockout punch. But right now, being down the way you are, unless you scoop something and go the other way, Saucon Valley is going to look like they're preserved as victory. But again, you always play it to the final whistle, see what happens.
And you mentioned it so far in the second half, Salisbury's had 2 offensive possessions. One of them they scored a touchdown. The other they were stopped on 4th down. It's kind of hard. You can't score points if your offense isn't on the field.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You can, but it's very tough when your other team's just running the ball at you and they're not turning the ball over. So not only did Saucon Valley's offense do their job in this second half, their offense has actually become probably their best defense tonight in the second half.
And right now, you're Saucon Valley with the opportunity to go 3-1, and I'm not going to say the meat of the schedule, but you think about it: at Northern Lehigh, then home to Bangor, at Wilson, and then at Northwestern, at home to Notre Dame, and then at Palisades. You get 2 of the big draws. But Wilson's going to be a tough game as well. But they're all going to Bangor. But you at least have a game there going in. That you have another game at Northern Lehigh to put yourself in a position. Again, you try to pick up points for that district, district points as well.
You're correct. And when you look at it, just like we talked to Coach Circle, every coach wants to go undefeated. But I asked him, did you expect to be 2-1 at this point? And that's when he said about just taking it 1 week at a time. He obviously also said, he knows his players are at home. They're looking at the schedule, and they're looking at games where they can pencil in potentially a win. And I'm not going to say we're going to pencil in a win for any of these upcoming games for Saucon Valley, but we can at least talk about, will they be favored in that game? And when you talk about going to Northern Lehigh next week, while playing at Northern Lehigh is a challenge, and it will be a challenge for Saucon Valley, I think you have to think going into that game, they're going to be favored in that game. Then when they bring Bangor in at home in 2 weeks, they potentially, most likely, will be favored in that game. And then when they travel to Wilson the week after, they're most likely going to be favored in that game. So they have a very good chance of sitting there at 6-1. And here we get another chance to see Dante Mahaffey take it in for a touchdown.
Yeah, Mahaffey goes in from 12 yards. He's got 3 touchdowns tonight.
Mahaffey a little slow to get up at the end of the play. Not quite sure if it's a cramp or not. But that should be the capper on this game. Salisbury will get another chance offensively to do something, but Saucon Valley knows they have to be expecting the pass as they come out.
Fourth touchdown run for Dante Mahaffey. You look at what Mahaffey's done to make it 41-22. You go back to really what Damian Garcia did. You get a 70-yard run, you put yourself on the the 1 yard line, and then Mahaffey runs it in. Getting those guys, and and it's been Garcia that has set the tone. By going over 200 yards and putting his team in position for the short yardage touchdowns, and Mahaffey's taking advantage of it.
Correct. And what you have to do is one thing you'd like to see. You have your starting tailback in Damian Garcia. He's doing the work. He's doing a lot of good things. But then at the same time, he's unselfish. He's not upset that Braden Legardo's taking a touchdown on the short yardage when they get inside. He's not upset Dante Mahaffey's taking a quarterback sneak. The whole team, they're all stuck together. They're all a tight-knit group. They enjoy playing with each other, and I think that's very important.
So 41-22 in the second half. Mahaffey scored from a yard out in the third quarter at the 7:05 mark to make it 28-14. Then Chad Parton, 4-yard touchdown from Quentin Stevens. That came at the 4:47 mark, 2-point conversion. Stevens to Pincarelli made it 28-22. And this one will be fielded right at the 20-yard line.
25 on the 20. Great
And
tackle, open field tackle by
that's Blake Letko on the return. Then Legardo, 5-yard touchdown, made it 34-22 as they missed a 2-point conversion. And then just moments ago, Dante Mahaffey, 12 yards on a touchdown run, came at the 2:05 mark to make it 41-22.
We'll see a few new jerseys on the field for Saucon Valley defensively, as this game is just under 2 minutes left. And it looks like we'll see some new faces on the field as well for the Salisbury offense.
timeout. They use the final
I think both
timeout.
coaches, when they look back at this, they're looking at it and thinking, this is what we expected to see. I think Salisbury knew they had to do some things, and they had to do them well to slow down that rushing attack of Saucon Valley, and they just weren't able to do that defensively. Saucon Valley knew Salisbury was going to come out and throw the ball, and they were successful to a point, but just not enough to take it and keep it in the game. They just lost out on a couple of drives, and then the Saucon Valley offense took over in the second half, just eating up the clock and limiting the number of possessions Salisbury was able to get.
If you're Salisbury, you got 2 minutes. You want to finish with some momentum, really leading into next week. And we know the passing game is there. You have some second teamers in there as well. Nicholas Beck, a 5'7", 135-pound freshman, takes a snap way high, and that one is recovered by Devin Alder.
Covered by number 21, Devin Alder.
How about you're a freshman? You're in there, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm not this tall. What are you doing on the snap?
Exactly, but fortunate for Salisbury, they're able to cover that up and able to retain possession and allow this group of offensive players to get some live game reps in a varsity game. Typically, I would say on a Friday night, but on a Thursday night in front of a big crowd.
Down to 1:30. Timeout called here by the Falcons as Andy Circle tries to regroup this offense. First down marker, by the way, is all the way up to the 44-yard line. We'll hear from our D-11 Sports intern reporters, Grace Albano, Megan Kane, and Nick Bortz, with our player of the game coming up. And we thank those that paired with us.
We had a chance to talk about Saucon Valley's schedule. Take a look at Salisbury and what they have upcoming. They have Notre Dame at home next week. They then travel to Catasauqua the week after that. Then home at Northern Lehigh. They travel to Bangor. So in those 4 weeks, Coach Circo and his Salisbury staff has to just get these kids to regroup, just refocus on what they were doing and what they've been doing to be successful throughout the season, and just get back to that.
So next Thursday we will be at Lehighton for Panther Valley Lehighton. Then we'll have Stroudsburg and Allen on the 28th. We'll be back up at Pocono Mountain West for Deer and Pocono Mountain West. Southern Lehigh at Penn Argyl on October the 12th. Whitehall and Liberty on a Friday night on October the 18th. And Wilson at Notre Dame to close out the regular season on the 26th of October. Here, third down and 26. The ball sits at the 18, the high snap. And taking it himself is Beck. And Beck gets driven down on the, and then they'll call a flag here on Kevin Tiedemann. Tiedemann, the sophomore.
That's definitely going to be called. They're going to get him with a horse collar as he had the back of his jersey to pull him down for the tackle.
The big scope of things when you talk about the 4A classification, Bethlehem Catholic going into their game this week at 2-1, they're leading the way. Blue Mountains at 3-0, and then Saucon Valley sitting there at 2-1, followed by Pottsville. So this moves them to 3-1. Again, you put yourself in position to get those wins and continue forward.
Exactly. I think that's what you have to do. You just have to continue to work your way into a position where you're making it to the playoffs because, as they always say, once you're in, anything can happen.
Salisbury sitting behind Notre Dame, Tamaqua, North Schuylkill, and Jim Thorpe. Right now, that's in the 3A classification.
And that penalty on Saucon Valley bails out Salisbury, gives them a first down to continue this drive. Just under 30 seconds left in the game.
This is the most running we've seen from Salisbury so far tonight. And that one on the carry by Jacob Ziegler, Ziegler Sr.
I believe we'll see that as being potentially the last play of the game. Doesn't look like Salisbury will elect to line up to try to run another play as the referee's trying to wind the clock.
So the clock will wind down, and so will the end of our D11sports.com game of the week. 41-22 is your final score in favor of the Panthers as they improve to 3-1, while Salisbury falls to 2-2. So a Thursday night special goes in favor of the Saucon Valley Panthers. And with that, we'll take a quick break and have our player of the game right after this. We're back. Final score once again is 41-22, and while we wait for our player of the game, we'll go through the scoring once again, Matt, in this one. No scoring after one quarter of play. 20-yard touchdown run by Dante Mahaffey at 11:18 mark made it 7-0. At the 8:05 mark, a 9-yard touchdown from Quentin Stevens to Tim Buda made it 7-6 in favor of Saucon Valley. Damian Garcia then had a 70-yard run down inside the 5-yard line, and Mahaffey picked up the latter part of that, scored at the 7:42 mark to make it 14-6. Braden Legardo scored from 3 yards out to make it 21-6. And then Quentin Stevens on a 12-yard run, add the 2-point conversion from Stevens, 21-14. That was your score at the half. To the third quarter, Dante Mahaffey went in from a yard out to make it 28-14. Chad Parton, a 4-yard touchdown to Quentin Stevens. 2-point conversion from Stevens to Pincarelli, 28-22. Then a 5-yard touchdown by Braden Legardo made it 34-22. They missed the 2-point conversion. And then Mahaffey scored his 4th touchdown of the night from 12 yards to make it 41-22. And that is your final score of the game. And with that, Matt, obviously, you look at the teams and you look at the players, but the guy that did a lot was the guy that we expected to do a lot, and that was, number 30 in Damian Garcia. And, that all said, opportunity, for our student reporters, Grace Albano, Megan Kane, and Nick Bortz to have a chat with our player of the game in Damian Garcia. We'll send it down to them.
Okay, Bruce Badgley, District 11 Sports, down here on the field with our interns for the game.
I'm Nicholas Bortz, Saucon Valley.
I'm Megan Kane from Saucon Valley. I'm Grace Albana from Saucon Valley, and I'm with this game's D11 Sports Player of the Game, running back Damian Garcia. What do you have? What thoughts do you have about this game today?
I think it was a dogfight today. Our boys, we went out there and we just gave it to them. There was a lot of problems we had penalty-wise, and I think today I had a good game. I think everyone had a good game. I think the most trouble we had today was on defense, and it was just an offensive battle.
Over 200 yards rushing. What momentum does tonight's win give you going into next week?
I think this is going to get me even more pumped for next game. I'm ready to get the ball. I'm banged up a little bit, but I think I'm just going to get ready for next game and just keep going.
Your quarterback, Dante Mahaffey, had 4 rushing touchdowns. What's your opinion on that?
I say great job. He had a great game.
Well, speaking of great games, I think our interns had great games as well. They did a terrific job here down on the field. Thank you very much for District 11 Sports. Back up to you guys.
All right, guys, thanks a lot. Job well done by our student interns. We expect that from them each and every time. They've done a great job so far in the first couple of weeks. Grace Albano, Megan Kane, Nick Bortz. Back up here with Matt Avancho. I know Dave Micah has been, been on Twitter and also on YouTube the whole night, and we, hope our fans enjoyed the broadcast. Obviously, we had some technical difficulties, but we got it for you, and we, got you a good game. And Matt, that's the key. A great game, and for Saucon Valley, they pick up the victory. Your final thoughts for the Panthers?
It was a great game. I think both teams, we saw what we expected to see. Saucon Valley just a little bit too much for Salisbury tonight with that offensive ground game. If I remember correctly, I don't remember seeing Saucon Valley throw a pass tonight. Just continue to run the ball behind that offensive line, and they're going to have to continue to rely on that. But eventually down the road, they're going to have to open it up a little bit, and I think we'll see them do that in time. But when that time comes, then they use it. If you don't need it and it's working, not broke, don't change it.
And for Salisbury,
I think Salisbury, they have to come back, just regroup. I think they, scoring 22 points tonight. They had 2 drives in the first quarter inside the 10-yard line, and then after that they had another one stalled out where they were driving in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter. So they had opportunities to score points. It's just they need to now learn how to finish those drives, and if they're able to finish those drives, we're going to see a lot. We're going to see a lot from them and hear a lot from them in the future.
So that'll do it from here. Saucon Valley's next game, again, will be at Northern Lehigh next week. Salisbury will take on Notre Dame at home. Final score, once again, 41-22 for our crew down in the field. Grace Albano, Megan Kane, Nick Bortz, Bruce Badgley, and Matt Avancho and everyone here, D11sports.com. We hope you enjoyed it. Next week, we'll be at Lehighton for Panther Valley and Lehighton. Thanks again. Final score, once again, 41-22. Al DiCarlo saying so long for now. Good night.